Hey everybody, this is Jack Hammer from the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. I'm here at Levi Stadium reporting on day 4 of 49ers training camp. It was a much better day today for Trey Lance. Let's just get started right there. Trey Lance had a couple of rough days on Friday and Thursday. Today, much better day. Overall, he was 8 of 15. He had one interception. The numbers don't sound great, but the performance was actually a little bit better than that. There was actually, of his completions, he had 8. It was like I said, he was 8 of 15, but he also had 2 passes that were dropped. So he should have been 10 to 15. The interception was a bad one. We'll get to that. There was some really nice movement in the pocket today from Trey Lance. Just overall, a really good day a much better day. Wouldn't say really good, but a much better day than what we saw from him on Thursday. What I saw from him on Thursday, and a much better day than what it sounded like from practice yesterday. So let's get into it a little bit, just to kind of go through with what Lance did. One of the really nice plays today from Lance was, his ability to move around in the pocket. There was a number of times where the rush came at him, but with Mike McGlinchey and Trent Williams out there today, the offensive line played better. They were able to kind of give him a little bit of a pocket, and you saw Lance move around. It wasn't just within the pocket, but also you saw him a couple of times be able to step up and through. And that's what you want to see. You want to see him get back there and be able to step right up and keep working up into the pocket. He did a really good job of working up into the pocket. One time did that, then took off running. Another time he did that, and then bounced out to his right and hit Brandon Aiyuk for a nice gain down the right side of the field. And that was a really nice one. He kind of did a lot of pressure on that one. Stepped up, moved to his right, and drilled it into to Brandon Aiyuk for a really nice gain down the field. He also had a really nice throw down the left side. One of the first times, couple of throws actually, that were nice deep ones, which was a nice change with Lance. We haven't seen a whole lot of that in the first 3 practices. Today we got to see a little bit more of that. He actually hit George Kittle deep down the left sideline on a play action. They were running a little wheel route over to the left side. The 49ers do that a lot with out of their play action game. Something that Trey Lance did a lot of when he was at North Dakota State. He put the ball right on the money to George Kittle down the left sideline on one of those. And then there was a really nice one, another nice completion to Brandon Aiyuk. This time it was a deep route on the right side. Aiyuk kind of ran a post corner. Really nice ball up high. It was over the top of Charvarius Ward. Aiyuk was able to get up and get his hands on the ball. So it was nice to see that connection between Aiyuk and Lance finally come together. It's been a while that the two have been struggling a bit to connect throughout camp. So it's good to see them be able to have that connection today. And like I said, there was a couple of really nice connections between Aiyuk and Trey Lance today. Aiyuk also had a nice reception from Nate Sudfeld as well. But it was good to see Aiyuk and Trey Lance getting it together today. And we have real quick a couple of folks over in the comment section. David says, "What's up, Jack? Good to have you on board. Just here at camp. It was a great day today. Can't wait to get back up here next Tuesday for the next camp practice that I'm going to be able to make." Outside of Trey Lance, it was a really good, like I said, it was a good performance for Lance. 8 of 15, 2 drops. He had the interception. The interception was a bad one, though. Let's just talk about that really quick. This was the second time now that I've seen him do this in as many practices as I've been here. Drop back to pass. He had Raymond McLeod running an in route from left to right. And just put the ball right between the 5 and the 4 on Fred Warner's chest, and the ball went the other way. It's one of those where it's either you got to get the ball up over the top of him, get a little bit more touch on the ball to put it up over him, or you've got to hold the ball one more beat and fire it to the other side of him. You can't throw the ball through linebackers, especially linebackers like Fred Warner. The receiver was running open. There was going to be some space there, but he just threw it right in there. It was, again, I talked about this on Wednesday or Thursday, but the interception that he threw to Jimmy Ward, this one was very similar to that. And these are the types of throws and the types of plays that we've heard a lot about last season with the other quarterback that was here, was the inability to see those underneath defenders on in-breaking routes and throwing it right into their chest or right to them. And that's what we've seen 2 of the last 3 practices. So definitely something to keep an eye on with Lance. He's had an interception now in the last 3 days. It's going to happen in camp. We'd rather have that stuff happen out here now than in the games. You kind of get an idea for what you can and can't do. But both of those throws, those two interceptions that I'm talking about, are ones that isn't so much about testing your arm. I mean, I think he made the right read. He knew it was going to the right spot with the ball. He just got to throw it either before the linebacker or after him. You can't throw it right at him. So that was the biggest issue, I think, on those two plays. So start off really quick, though. Like I said, good day today for Trey Lance, much better than the last couple of days. Good day for Brandon Aiyuk as well. And really, let's get into it, because I think the bigger bonus for today for the 49ers was what we saw up front. Mike McGlinchey back starting at right tackle. Trent Williams back starting at left tackle. So you had the 49ers offense pretty much intact for what we thought it was going to be. Trent Williams started, finally got some reps, and Mike McGlinchey as well with that first team unit, first time throughout all of training camp. And as you'd expect, having both of your starting tackles on the offensive line makes everybody look a lot better. And the protection for Lance was definitely better today, as I said as well. Not only just from the fact of the sacks and those types of things, but the protection was good enough where it created a nice pocket, which he was able to work around side to side in, and help him actually even scramble once or twice as well. So, good comeback day for Mike McGlinchey, good comeback day for Trent Williams as well. Neither one of them took all of the first team reps. They were kind of splitting. They'd run a series and then they'd take the next one off, and then they'd go to the next series and take the next one off. So it was back and forth with those two. But just having their presence, I think, solidified the offensive line a little bit and helped everybody else around them do better. It was a much better day for the offensive line than what we've seen so far through practice. McGlinchey in particular had a really good day. Just kind of watching what he was doing, did a really good job of holding his own against Charles Omenihu in the pass rush. Also did a good job against Nick Bosa on the deep pass that I mentioned earlier from Lance to George Kittle down the left sideline. That was a deep ball that required play action, required some time to sit in the pocket. McGlinchey was manned up against Nick Bosa on that rep. Bosa took a hard step up the field before trying to slide inside on him. McGlinchey was in perfect position, caught him, and just drove him down into the inside, away from the play, allowed Lance to have plenty of time, step up, and drive that ball down the left sideline to Kittle for a nice completion. So really good day for Mike McGlinchey. First day back from the torn quad tendon, that he suffered. So really good day for McGlinchey. Good day for Trent Williams as well. And the overall offensive line. One of the other things that's interesting today when it comes to the offensive line is there's been some question as what's going to happen at right guard. Spencer Burford had been getting the reps at right guard with the first unit, while Jalen Moore was getting the reps out at right tackle. Today, with McGlinchey standing in, it was kind of a question who's going to be at right guard. It ended up being Spencer Burford. The rookie took all of the reps at right guard today with the first unit, performing well. Same thing over on the other side with Aaron Banks. So, having Mike McGlinchey, having Trent Williams is going to help guys like Spencer Burford, Aaron Banks, and then whoever else is playing in center. The center was also a rotation as well again today. You had Jake Brendel took all of the started with that first group that I talked about. When the next time around when the ones went in, it would be Daniel Brunskill. Brunskill did okay, had a couple of off snaps, but for the most part he wasn't bad either. So you're seeing the line come together. All the reports from the first couple of days, I kept saying, settle down. We're not even out of July yet. The first practice of August doesn't even come till Monday, and the first game isn't until the second week of September. So we still have a long way to go for this group to all come together. And think about it: if you have Williams and McGlinchey holding down those outside, then you're going to have two young guys, possibly a second and a first year guy at right guard and left guard. And that's all going to depend on what happens at center, because at center you've got, like I said, you've got the competition going on right there. I think what's going to happen, what we're going to see is that's going to play out. If Daniel Brunskill doesn't win the job at center, he's going to become the right guard. The 49ers know what he can do. I think they feel comfortable starting him there. This is a great opportunity for Spencer Burford to get reps. Even if he's not the starter, he's getting a ton of reps that are going to be valuable for him as the season goes along and going into next year as well. So really good day for the offense, especially at the quarterback position. And also, like I said, with the quarterback position, meaning Trey Lance. And then the offensive line doing a much better job holding up as well. And we're going to get into some more offensive line play in a minute. But Blind Tom, thank you very much for the donation. Blind Tom also is a member of the Toolbox, so that's why you see that little symbol next to his name. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. He says, "Is Brock Purdy going to get cut? Going to cut it? Excuse me. I like this kid. Purdy is he had a solid day today. He was 5 of 6. Didn't really try to work down the field. It was efficient, just kind of mostly underneath stuff. And he's a work in progress. I think Purdy is the guy that can be the long-term, would be expected to be maybe the longer-term backup here with the 49ers. But right now he'd be third behind Nate Sudfeld. Sudfeld had a rough day today, but he was also testing the defense out, trying to get the ball down the field more often. So, but it was a good day for Purdy overall. Like I said, 5 of 6. A lot of checkdowns into both flats and things like that. So not a whole lot going on as far as where the ball was going, but it was a solid day for Purdy in terms of the completion percentage at least. Let's see what else we've got. We've got talked about the offensive linemen. It was a good day for those guys, and then and Burford as well. Also got to talk a lot about the defense because the defense had a big day today. We'll start off with Fred Warner, the all-pro middle linebacker. Just a solid day again. He was solid yesterday in run support, did that well today, and as well as the interception of Trey Lance over the middle on the pass that was going to Ray McLeod. So, Fred Warner is ready to go. The 49ers defense, for the most part, looks like they're really meshing well right now. Another guy, the safeties look good again, and we'll start off with Tarvarius Moore. He's the backup right now behind Hufanga and Jimmy Ward, but he took a big step back today in his return from the Achilles tendon surgery that he had last year. He had 2 picks on the day. The first one was a ball that was tipped. Nate Sudfeld dropped back. He tried to hit Brandon Ayuk on a throw over the middle. Tarvarius Ward, been all over the field throughout the first 4 days for the 49ers defense, was there, got his hand in there, pass, broke it up. The ball bounced up in the air, and Moore was there. He was able to dive, and get the interception for the 49ers defense. The second one, though, that one showed, I think, that Moore is back and that he's feeling good. That one was a deep ball. Sudfeld was trying to get it deep to Danny Gray on a deep post route. The ball kind of hung up there a little bit, and Moore was able to come over and get up high, leap, catch the ball at its highest point, and come down with the second interception of the day. So a really good day for Tarvarius Moore. Definitely, so you guys had asked me about Moore's play after practice on Thursday. He stood out today. It was hard to not notice him. He had some really nice plays. It was a really good day for Tarvarius Moore today. Also, Talanoa Hufanga, Hufanga's had a really solid training camp. It's been strong all the way through so far. Yesterday, he had the interception of Trey Lance on the ball that was from the George Kittle, which sounds like a little bit of a miscommunication between the quarterback and the receiver, from what I understand, listening to what Kyle Shanahan had to say prior to practice today. But Hufanga's looked really good, had that interception yesterday. Today, there was one play in particular. It was a running play, and he broke through the line of scrimmage and would have dropped the running back for a loss if they were able to tackle. So it was really good, really nice play in the run support portion there for Hufanga, who has shown the ability to play all over the defense. We've seen him line up as the deep safety. We've seen him line up in the box. When he's lined up in the box, he's like another linebacker down there, but the way that he's able to move around, just a solid player for the 49ers. It's going to be fun to watch and see how he continues to develop as this training camp goes through. I will say that there's definitely some chemistry between Jimmy Ward and Talanoa Hufanga. They're together all the time. They're talking. There's constant communication. It's almost like Jimmy Ward's taking him under his wing, trying to show him everything that he knows and everything he's learned during his time as a member of the 49ers. So really good stuff there. And then Javon Kinlaw. You got to talk a little bit about Javon Kinlaw. We talked about Mike McGlinchey and Trent Williams returning today to the team drills. That was Javon Kinlaw on the defensive side today. He finally, he'd been ramping this thing up. He finally was able to get in and play some with the starting defense and team drills today for the first time in training camp. Wasn't able to do it the whole way through. He did it the way that they do team drills here is they do a bunch of plays, about 15, 20 minutes of it, and they take a break and do some special teams, and they come back and they do some more team before finishing up with some special teams. Kinlaw worked with that first unit during that first round of team drills. During the second half, he sat that part out, but it was good to see him on the field. He looks solid. He looks like he's moving around pretty good. He's got to keep working that knee and getting into shape. But it was good to see Javon Kinlaw taking some snaps with the first team defense during team drills today. In terms of the still, and talked about Charvarius Ward a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the receivers. Talked already about Brandon Ayuk. Juwan Jennings got a number of targets, as did Ray McLeod. We'll get into Ray McLeod in a minute. But also we got to talk about George Kittle. The first throw that Kittle had was right at him from Trey Lance, dropped it. It was just a little short route over the middle, past Simmons' hands. He kind of bobbled a little bit, and then Fred Warner swatted it away. So that was an incompletion there that Kittle should have got. But you saw Kittle rebound later on in practice. As I mentioned earlier, when I was talking about McGlinchey, he was able to break free for a big completion down the left sideline on that wheel route. It was play action. He's running wheel on the backside, and the 49ers do that play a lot, and it's something that they run very well. And Lance, if you watch his college film, you've seen plenty of times where he's thrown that route during his time in North Dakota State. Ran it today, put it right on the tight end for a nice completion down the left sideline. So that was a really good positive. In terms of some things that weren't necessarily positive with the receivers, though, you got to talk about what's going on right now with Danny Gray. I think I'd be remiss to not mention that, Danny Gray was brought in. He's a fast receiver, right? Everybody knows he's got that speed element to his game. But, so far, the 49ers haven't really been able to take advantage of it. They've tried to get him open deep. It hasn't worked today. Today we saw them try to get a deep ball to Gray. It was a deep post route. The other day when they tried to run this route with Gray, it was Charvarius Ward running stride for stride with him down the middle of the field on a play that ended up, I believe, as an interception. Today it was Deommodore Lenoir running stride for stride with Gray down the field into the post. This time, like I said, the ball was up in the air and hung up there a little bit, and Charvarius Moore intercepted it. But Gray's a guy who the 49ers expect to be a speedy guy, and this is one of those things that shows. It doesn't matter if you run 4-3. It doesn't mean you're going to get open in the NFL because you're playing against defensive backs that run 4-2 and 4-3. It's not like when you're playing in college and you got guys of all the different varying degrees. This is a different level of competition, and so far he hasn't really shown a whole lot there. But he did come back later and did have a catch on a short throw from Brock Purdy. It was a short in route that he was able to grab. So that was nice. Good to see him catch the ball and kind of get in rhythm a little bit there. But as far as that explosive element from Danny Gray, that has not yet shown up in training camp practice. Moving on to going back to the offensive lineman for a second. The second team. One of the second team tackles right now is Jason Poe. He's running with the second team offensive line, and he struggled today. He struggled a lot in the 4 practices so far. I've been here for 3 of the 4, and then of those 3, and 2 of those 3 that I've been here, we've seen him get beat really bad in pass protection. Today, he got beaten multiple times by the veteran that the 49ers just signed, Robert Nkemdiche. On one of those pass rushes, Poe didn't even get a hand on him. It was pretty much just a quick step by Nkemdiche. Nkemdiche was around Poe before he could even touch him. The only thing that stopped it was he held up after beating him. And then on a run play a little bit later on, it was very similar. Nkemdiche just getting off the line quicker than Poe, beating him into the backfield and just blowing up a running play. So I know a lot of people want to hear about guys like Jason Poe and Leon O'Neal and so on. Was not a good day for Jason Poe. He's struggling. He's a guy who, if he's still around the 49ers, he would be on the practice squad. I don't think he has a chance of making the 53-man roster this year. Does have the chance of making the practice squad. There's things to like about him. He's got the athleticism, that's for sure. But right now, he's not there when it comes to the technique at the NFL level to be a regular player inside. So he's definitely a work in progress. We'll see how that works out. let's get on to Ambry Thomas. Thomas started a bunch last year for the 49ers down the second half of the season, and he struggled. He has struggled in coverage throughout the first 4 days of training camp, and wasn't any different today. One particular rep, he was matched up with Brandon Aiyuk. Aiyuk ran a post-out route, and he just shook him. Thomas was just lost in space, really bit on the post, on that inside move. Aiyuk turned and was wide open, able to catch the ball along the right sideline for a nice catch. So, Thomas is a guy that was really good in man coverage during his time at Michigan, and he's struggling with it right now here with the 49ers. He struggled with it quite a bit last year at times, was very inconsistent on it. So that's an area that needs to be improved upon. Ambry Thomas is a backup there, has definitely been struggling. And then Nate Sudfeld. Nate Sudfeld's been really consistent throughout the beginning of camp up until today. It was a rough one for him. He finished today 6 of 12. He had 3 interceptions, the 2 by Tarvarius Moore, the 1 by Charvarius Ward. He also fumbled the ball. Of Sudfeld's interceptions, I think the first one was the worst. And the reason that was the deep post down the middle to Ray McLeod that got picked off by Ward. The reason I say I think that was the worst was because that was a ball that should not. He took the shot, and he might have had a step, but his arm just wasn't enough to get it out in front. If he'd been able to really put it out in front of the receiver where the receiver didn't have to slow down, probably would have been a touchdown. But the ball hung up there, and Ward was able to catch up to it and jump over the top and make the leaping interception. The issue on that play, though, was he had his tight end wide open about 15 yards downfield right in front of him, right in the middle of the field. There was nobody around. He could have had a nice pitch catch, would have been a big play. Probably would have been a 30 to 40-yard play because, like I said, there was nobody around the tight end. Instead, he tried to fire in the deep ball. Maybe that's where the play was designed to go. But he had that tight end wide open and didn't take it. So it was a tough one there. And then last but not least, in terms of my comments, and we'll get into some of your questions, was Raymond McLeod, the veteran free agent that they picked up from the Steelers this offseason. Early on in practice, he did a really nice job of finding the hole over the middle in the zone defense for a big gain on a completion from Trey Lance. However, a little bit later in practice in that second session, there was a throw out to the right sideline that was incomplete to McLeod. It seemed like he might have hurt his ankle or hurt his something on his lower body. On that one, you could see him kind of limping back to the group after that, and then he kind of limped through practice after that. They tried to get him another time, and he looked like he was still limping, like his leg was bothering him. And then they tried a deeper pass to him, and that one was incomplete as well. So he's been solid. McLeod's been really solid for the 49ers throughout OTAs and minicamp. He's been solid throughout training camp so far. So it's going to be this is going to be something to monitor with his lower leg. Unfortunately, don't have any definite word on that because Kyle Shanahan met with the press prior to practice today, so we didn't get a post-practice injury report. So we can't give you any update on terms of where what that is, if there's anything to be concerned about there, or if it was just something that kind of went away. So we'll get a look at it. We have Dabadoo comes back in. He's got a question. He says, how did the backup tight ends do and at Nickelback? Nickelback, let's get into that one first. Big fan of Nickelback. Oh, wait, we're talking about the defense. I'm kidding. That's a bad dad joke. But the Nickelback position was a little bit different today. Instead of Darqueze Dennard running with the ones, it was Dante Johnson. So we saw Dante Johnson taking the reps with the starters from the slot. Makes sense. Johnson has played well in there in the past. Started there in a couple of games for the 49ers last year, including Week 18 down in Los Angeles. Darqueze Dennard came on later, but it was Dante Johnson today starting at Nickelback. He played well. Kyle Shanahan talked about the Nickelback position prior to practice today. He was asked about a little bit about like Darqueze Dennard and so on, and he talked about how, when you're looking at the Nickelback position, it's a little bit different than that outside corner. That outside cornerback needs to be a little bit faster, needs to be able to run. The 40 times a little bit more important for that guy than it is for the slot guy. The slot, because of where you're lined up, you can play some leverage and things like that. So you don't have to necessarily, which helps you in terms of making up maybe for a little bit of a lack of speed. And so I think that's why we've seen Dante Johnson play so well in there. It's one of the things that K'Waun Williams was good in there. Kyle Shanahan also talked about the need to have guys that can play multiple positions, and why that's important with the defense, because you usually have 5 cornerbacks that are up on game day, and they have to be able to do multiple things. And that's where Dante Johnson can be interesting for the 49ers, because this is a guy who can line up in the slot, he can line up outside, and he can play safety for you. We actually saw him lined up at safety a little bit today. So Dante Johnson would be, like I said, nickelback played well today. Dante Johnson was the first man up. We'll see how that continues to play out through training camp here. As far as the backup tight ends, that's who the ball was getting to when Brock Purdy was throwing. He hit Troy Fumagalli a couple of times. He hit Taylor Croft once. So they're looking good. didn't see anything go to Ross Dwelley, but Croft and Fumagalli both had receptions today. Let's see what else we've got. Richard wants to know what Lance's numbers were again. Yeah, no problem. Trey Lance today was 8 of 15. He had one interception, and 2 of his passes were dropped. He had a drop by George Kittle, and then he had another drop. I'm blanking on who that one was, but there was a couple of drops as well that played into it. So not bad there in terms of the day for Trey Lance. It was an improved day for him. He also did good running the ball too. Like I said, he was 8 of 15, those 2 drops. But when you look at Trey Lance today, if you watched him today, you would come away, I think, impressed from his day. 8 of 15 doesn't sound good, but you take in the drops, that's part of it. You also got to take in the movement skills. They're really good with his feet today. Like I said, the offensive line gave him some time in the pocket, so that really helped out as well. But for me, I really like to see a quarterback do what he did today, which is pressure around, and instead of bouncing out and running all different directions, really stepping up and through the pocket. When you see a quarterback that's doing that, that really means that they're focused down the field and they're on their game. The offensive line is helping them out do that as well. But he was really on it today. Just like I said, the first time, really good pressure on him, and he was able to step up and through the pocket. Kind of stepped up. He looked downfield, and then there was nothing there, and then took off. And I really like the fact that once he stepped up and threw, he looked, there wasn't anything there, and then he took off. So it wasn't just nothing, pressure. I'm out of here. You saw him actually still keeping his eyes down the field. And the second time he stepped up and threw, and then he knew he had Aiyuk coming across, and he did a good job of sliding over to the right before drawing it into Aiyuk for a nice gain. So it was a good day overall for Trey Lance. Like I said, the numbers don't look great, 8 of 15, but those drops change it up. So, you go back and you look at the first week for Trey Lance really quick before we wrap the show up. And I'm going to say, if you go back and you look at his numbers, not very good for the first week, right? He had 3 of 10 yesterday. He was 7 of 15 the day before there, so that's 10 of 25. Today was 8 of 15, so that gets you to 18 of 40. He was right around 50% over the first 4 days of practice, and I'm talking about what during the team portion of practice, right around 50%, just a little bit above that, because on the first day he had I think it was four of his completions were he went 4 for 4, I think, during a 7-on-7 parade. So, he's right around 50%, but it's early. If you keep stacking up days like today, the 49ers are going to be good there. Because, like I said, there were some really nice plays that we haven't seen. We haven't even seen the 49ers yet try to do a move the ball period, which will play a big role in kind of, see how they do and what it's like in a game situation. We haven't seen them try that yet. So definitely some things to keep an eye on next week as they come back. But I think it was a good first solid start. Monday will be the first day for the defense for the team in pads. They'll have their shoulder pads and helmets on. So they get those shoulder pads on, which doesn't really change a whole lot for a lot of the, other than the thudding up, on the tackles, right? Because they don't tackle in practice, but they'll be able to do some of those kind of things. We'll see them get that done this week. So, Edie, really quick, asked about Jauan Jennings and Trey Sermon. Jennings was targeted a couple of times by Lance today, and then Trey Sermon, didn't really see a whole lot of Trey Sermon, especially early on. There was I spent most of my day at the beginning of practice watching the defense, focusing on the defensive side, and then during team drills, didn't see him. I actually asked the guy standing next to me if Sermon was even dressed today because I hadn't been paying attention to the offense, and uh, spotted him back there. And then a couple plays after I mentioned that, he had a couple of nice runs. So, Sermon's looking okay. It's a lot of Elijah Mitchell today, a lot of Jeff Wilson Jr. today. So Trey Sermon overall though has looked okay throughout. Moses has a question. I haven't been ignoring you, Moses. I saw your other one as well on the 7 route and how tough that is to handle. But how is Thomas's footwork? That will be key on why he's struggling. Again, he's just, I think part of it with Ambry Thomas is a speed issue. We'll see. I think a lot of it is I don't know if he quite has the speed on that outside. Something to keep an eye on as they move forward with that. Niners Warriors says, Jack, this is the third day that Juice's name has not been mentioned by Twitter media during the scrimmages. How's his pass blocking? Why aren't they involving him in the offense? They haven't gotten to that portion of the offense. They did try to throw the ball to him today. The first incompletion from Trey Lance, I think it was the first incompletion, was they were trying to get the ball actually to Juszczyk, and the ball just didn't get there. It ended up at his feet. So that was one of the first plays today in the script for the 49ers was a throw to Kyle Juszczyk. The ball didn't get to him. As far as his run blocking and stuff, the 49ers run game has looked good, especially with Elijah Mitchell in there and at times Trey Sermon and Trey Davis-Price. They did have a really nice run around the left side today with Elijah Mitchell. I should have talked about that one earlier. Early on in the team, they ran an outside sweep, handed it off from Lance to Mitchell, got around, got to the edge. It was wide open against the 49ers first team defense and a big gain down the left side of the field. So really nice play there. But Juszczyk's going to come around. I don't know why he's not more involved in the offense. Kyle Juszczyk, I think, is one of the more talented players on the team with all the different things that he can do. He really is like your second tight end, and that could be part of it. Is right now they're early on in their install period and stuff like that. So keep an eye on. We'll see here. I'm sure we'll hear more about Kyle Juszczyk as we go through. Emiliano says, I heard that Trey was heavily pressured on that incomplete pass to Juice. He was. That's why I think it might have, he was out there. It's a pass that just need to put a little air in it. There's nobody around him. Just got to get him the ball. And a lot of pressure there makes it tough. You got to be able to throw it fall away and get that ball over the top. But it's all right. Like I said, it's day 4. We're wrapping up July. Now we're on to August. We got the whole month of August for the team to work. We've got 3 preseason games that are going to come up, and then 17 days between the last preseason game and week 1 of the season. So a long way to go for this team to get ready for the season. I think it was a productive first week. We'll see how next week starts. I won't be here on Monday. Unfortunately, I have other commitments, but I will be here the rest of the week to report to you guys what's going on here at practice. So just want to take a second and say thank you to everybody who's tuned in. Got a good group here checking it out. Really good, lively group in the comment section. Did have this, Jack. It seems like the offensive line isn't too good. I'm worried they might get our quarterback hurt early in the season if the front office doesn't put any work getting better our offensive line to protect Trey. Now, here's the thing. Today you had the starting lineup in there, and Lance got sacked once, scrambled a couple times. The protection was much better today. The first 3 days of practice, when it wasn't quite so good, you had one starter in there. And the only starter that was in there was Aaron Banks, who was a new starter. Today you had, I think, what it was pretty much expected to be that starting offensive line, and you saw it perform better. So as far as that offensive line, it's going to be fine. It's a work in progress. Like I said, we're in July. Give them some time. We still got the whole month of August and the first half of September to get ready for week 1, and I think this offensive line is going to come together. So good day today for the 49ers, though. Like I said, I want to say thanks to everybody over in the comment section. You guys were great. That was a lot of fun today. If you guys could just do me a favor before you check out, hit that subscribe button for me. Trying to continue to grow this channel. That's a big one. Also, hit that like button for me if you can. And go to 49ers.pressdemocrat.com and make sure that you make that a favorite on your web browser. So like, subscribe, 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. And in terms of the notepads, not a big deal, man. Offensive linemen don't use shoulder pads all that much. Primarily, it's hands and feet. They use their head a little bit when they get into guys, but a lot of it is working with their hands and their lower half. So shoulder pads doesn't really change up a whole lot with the offensive line play. Doesn't really change up a whole lot with the defensive line play either. Defensive linemen can be a little bit more physical once they get their shoulder pads on. Nick Bosa even talked about how right now during this time of the season, it's requiring him without the shoulder pads to play with a little bit more, with less physicality. So that's actually should be helping out the Flyers offensive line. We saw it today when the starters were back in. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. Like, subscribe, hit that little bell notification. Until third, I'll be back. I will not be back tonight, but I will be back on Monday with Rob Shue for another 49er show, talking about the training camp so far. And then I'll be back from live from training camp on Tuesday afternoon. Take care, everybody. See you soon. Have a good weekend.